everybody. Today we're going to talk about how to get flawless foundation. This is what I like to do for myself and for all my clients. So I'm going to walk you through my process a little bit. I've already kind of prepped my skin. I just have my usual face stuff. So I've cleansed and exfoliated. I've got my moisturizer on, my serums, all that good stuff. So now I'm going to go ahead and with my primer, and I love the Heir Atelier primer from Kendra in LA. A little bit goes a long way. This is a great product, so I'm just going to take a tiny little bit and I'm just going to put it all over. This really helps for the makeup to go on smoothly, and it really helps it to last all day long. And it feels great. It's like a nice little extra boost on the skin. Yay. Ah, happy. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna dive right into my foundation. So you really wanna choose a foundation that works for you. If you want a lot of coverage, then I would definitely lean towards a heavier, more full cover liquid or cream foundation. If you like a lighter coverage, you might want like a tinted moisturizer, or in my case, I'm actually gonna use the Kosas tinted face oil. I am obsessed with this stuff. I just think it looks really beautiful. A little goes a long way. It has good coverage. So for me in my book, this is great. It's also a clean beauty product, which is awesome. So I actually like to just put a little bit in my hands, especially with this because it's so liquidy. Normally, if I were using like a heavier foundation, like Face Atelier or something like that, I would actually just like pump a little bit on the back of my hand. But because of this formula, because it's so, well, oily, I'm just gonna do a couple drops into the palm of my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4 drops. Like I said, a little bit goes a long way. And I'm actually gonna use a brush. I really am obsessed with this brush from my Kitco. I just love it. I just love the way that it puts the product on my face. So I just tap it into the product. And then I kind of start, I always start at my under eyes because that's like the most obvious part that needs covering for me. And then and I'm just lightly tapping and kind of feathering it. So around my eyes, I kind of tap it, and then I softly sweep it. So I'm not adding a ton of pressure. See how I'm not bending the bristles like this? I'm just really lightly, like the bristles shouldn't bend that much. So I just like to kind of do a little combination of like little sweeping motions like that are really light and gentle, and little tapping motions. I kind of find myself tapping it in where I need a little more coverage. It's like almost like pressing the product into the skin where you need it. I'm gonna add a couple more drops, 3 drops. And I'm just tapping it around the face. Now, something to remember about foundation is you don't necessarily have to put it everywhere, all over your face all the time, okay? So if you want a full cover, cool, go for it. For me, I don't necessarily like that. I really like to be able to, I don't want it to feel too heavy. I like to see my skin. You know, I work really hard on trying to make sure that I'm taking good care of my skin, so I want to show it off a little bit. So I'm that's why I usually lean towards like a lighter formula. But something else that I might do is I might kind of keep this natural flush on my cheeks. I don't need to like tone it completely out to add blush on top. I can kind of work with it, right? So I'm just going to kind of avoid putting a lot of product there. I'm just kind of working around it and sweeping product and kind of buffing it gently towards it. See how I'm buffing it up into it, but I'm not actually like putting product directly on it. So that's a good little trick for areas that don't necessarily need that extra coverage. So I'm just kind of buffing over. If you want, you can always use a sponge or a beauty blender. I always, you know, it's a nice way to kind of soften anything up. So if you do feel like you went a little heavy handed at one point, maybe right here, you're like, oh shoot, I put too much. You can just take a damp sponge or a clean brush and just tap it out. So this is a great way to kind of sheer out your foundation a little bit, soften it up, just like that. So I always like to do like one quick pass all over wherever I need it. And then if I need a little extra coverage, I'll go in with a tiny bit more foundation on those spots before I go in with concealer. Because concealer is a heavier consistency, so you don't want to have a ton of it on. You want to use as little as possible, because the more concealer you add, it's a heavier product, the more obvious it looks, the heavier it's going to feel. And that's just not what we're going for. So try to cover what you can with your foundation, and then we can go in and correct. Something else that I really like to do is I'll like warm up my hands, and I'll actually use my hands to press in the product. So if you don't have a sponge or you don't want to use a sponge, or even you saw me use a sponge, but now I'm actually using my hands to press it in. I just think it looks a little better. I just think it looks a little bit more natural. It kind of melts it into the skin. So that's a nice little trick. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm not like a, oh my gosh, I can't have a freckle showing. I like to see freckles and little spots because that's just my aesthetic. It's natural, I think it's pretty. But we'll go ahead and conceal too, just to show you. Let me grab a concealer brush. So I'm just gonna go in with one of these little concealer brushes. This one's from BDelium. I love their brushes. So I'm gonna go in with just a Nars concealer. It's just like a yellow base. This is Custard. This is my own personal one, so I'm just gonna go right in with my little thing. And I just kind of dab it on. Try to get in close for you so you can see my blemish. That's so lovely. Just kind of dab, and then I actually tap it out with my finger. And it kind of covers it pretty well. But see how little product I'm using? I'm really not using that much. And then if you want, you can also just use your foundation brush to kind of blend it in. Something else you want to do when you're blending your foundation is you always want to blend it back into the hairline, into the ear, down the neck. You want everything to be one tone, right? You don't want to be wearing a mask because that's not what we're going for. Okay, cool. So you got that. I like to add a little extra coverage here, so a little extra redness right there, a little bit here. If this was my client, I would probably be obviously taking more time and being a little more meticulous. Because it's on myself, I'm a little more like fast. I don't really like spending a ton of time doing my makeup. And I like to wear as little product as possible, so I try not to be super obsessive about it. Okay, around the nose too, a little bit, because it always is a little red right around here. And I'm using my hands. Your hands are your best tools, right? Like, if your hands are, make sure they're clean. But it really is just the best. Okay, and then for under my eyes, I like to use more of like a peachy toned concealer. So I'm actually gonna go with the, sorry, this is kind of dirty, but this is mine, not my kit. YSL concealer, the Touche Eclat high cover radiant concealer. So I did a little pump. Let's see if any product comes out. Okay, dripped right onto my hand. That was amazing. So see how, I want to show you the color difference on this too. This one's the Nars, so it's very yellow, it's very light. And this is the YSL that I'm gonna use under my eyes. See how dark that is? So it seems like it might be too dark for my complexion because I'm pretty fair, but my dark circles are pretty dark, so it actually neutralizes it really well. And that's all I'm gonna, not gonna be too much even. I'm just gonna buff this out with my finger. You can use a blender too. You can use whatever you want. Use whatever feels good, really. I mean, makeup is so personal, and you gotta find what works for you. Everybody's got their thing. Everybody has a way of doing things. So find the best version for you. And when it comes to under eye stuff, I just kind of tap it into the skin. Start with a little bit and build, because again, in areas like this, where you do get fine lines and you know, it might be a little bit drier or whatever, if this is more of a problem area for you, you want to have as little product on there as possible. And that's why I bring the foundation up to the under eyes too, because you want to try and cover what you can with that nice sheer foundation, and then kind of use as little concealer as possible. You don't want to be caking it on under there. That is a no-no, because then it just gets really, ugh. Then you just have like a ton of product under the eyes. So that's brightened it up quite a bit. I always like to make sure I get this inner portion. And if I'm not gonna wear eyeshadow like today, I might put a little bit on my eyelids as well, just to kind of brighten those up, because mine are pretty dark. you know, use at your own discretion. Do what feels good, do what works for you. But look how much nicer that is, so much brighter. And then something else I like to do, just to pop this and brighten this up a tiny bit more, is I'll go in with my Nars concealer right on, basically right on the bag, just very glamorous. But I kind of outline the bag under my eyes, okay? Because I'm kind of highlighting that to bring it forward, because it kind of sinks a little bit. So when you bring a brighter color over it, it makes it look like it's coming towards you. It makes it look like it's coming forward. So I just kind of buff that in, just like that. Et voila. And now I'm awake. I haven't worn this much makeup in a while. I've been like hiding out in my house for like 3 weeks because of this quarantine situation. So I feel like I should do something. I mean, I can't really go anywhere, but now I want to. And that's kind of it. From here, you would want to set with a powder or with a setting spray or whatever works for you. I really am enjoying this Honest loose setting powder. I love the packaging. I like everything about it. And I actually like using a smaller powder brush. So this is a little blender brush from my Kitco again. It's like a nice loose brush. Tap off the excess and just kind of dust it where you need it. I always hit around the eyes, and when I get here with the brush, I press it in. So I don't want it to settle into fine lines. You really want to make sure that you're pressing product into it. Same when I was doing the concealer too, I was pressing it with my fingers. Hit around the nose and the chin. And that's kind of it for me, because I want to keep the rest of it pretty luminous and glowy. If you want an overall matte kind of thing, you could go in and powder all over. Something else I really like to do is I actually love using these little puffs. You can get these anywhere, and you can dip it into your powder, and then I follow in by patting it onto my hand so I don't have too much, and then rolling it onto the skin. And I usually do this around the eyes, around the nose, and so on and so forth. But you could do this all over your face if you want more of that full cover situation. But there you have it. That's how you get a nice, flawless foundation. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and if there's any products that you want to know more about, please feel free to let me know. If you have any products that you love, please share. And thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.